do you pronounce your name?
How do I pronounce my name? Chris Rakestraw.
Rakestraw.
Just like you're raking straw.
Rakestraw.
Yeah. You would not believe how many people don't believe that's the normal way, but
Chris Rakestraw.
Rake straw. Just
Is
like
that
raking
guy?
a straw.
That's Chris. Rakestraw. 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 And you are a monitor engineer for?
I am the monitor engineer for Megadeth right now.
You are?
Yes.
I heard a rumor about you, though.
Oh, what is this?
I heard you weren't just a monitor engineer.
No. My background is probably 25
Tell the people what you do.
years in the studio, producing records, engineering, mixing. So I did that for a long time before I got into
Any records of notoriety?
a couple Megadeth records, the last couple, but yeah, that's...
So, okay. I just, going from like recording a Megadeth album to side stage is fascinating to me. Because you would think the natural progression would be over there.
Oh yeah, but who wants to do that
side
job? Who wants to be a front house?
Well, this side is arguably probably like the hardest job because this is the only job I know of that your skill is secondary to your ability to communicate.
Well, that's making records in general, what you just said. So,
oh, that's good.
100% correct in the reality of how things work. Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. At some point, everybody can put a 57 into a Neve and have a great guitar sound. But if you can keep the guitar player from walking out and actually getting stuff done, you're better at your job.
I was going to ask the translation from studio to here, but you kind of nailed that, man.
Well, that's probably the biggest question that people ask me that know I did studio work before.
Yeah.
But honestly, with everybody on in-ears these days and the technology, I can do basically the same thing I did in the studio here, because everything is so hi-fi. I mean, everyone's got like $2,000 in-ears, which sound like the most pristine loudspeakers you would have in a studio. So everything I do here translates, and I don't know, I'm pretty thankful for that, I guess.
Okay, let's back it up a little bit. I could you guys got like 2 hours to spend on this because I could dig into this for forever, but we don't have that.
Sure.
We can push the band back, right?
Yeah. The band can play later.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Let's circle it on back to where you were just a twinkle in your dad's eye. Oh, I mean, not that far back. Where are you from?
I was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, kind of grew up in North Carolina, Chapel Hill area. So I grew up with a bunch of cool indie bands around and a cool music scene. Grew up playing horn and playing bass in punk bands and stuff. And
the horn?
Yeah, I played sax, like in marching band.
You didn't go to ska?
No, Dreadful, no.
Not a Super Tone Strike Back?
Not a big ska guy. But no, I ended up in punk bands and always ended up being the guy that was like, hey, what was that part? What was that part? Okay, let's put them together. So I just naturally got into the organizing the music part of, the role, like just by default. And so then after that, I ended up going to San Diego Community College and learning about MIDI, and from there, I met some random guy. His name was Gunnar Ramstrom. I still remember his name. He was a rocket scientist, and he told me I should go to Los Angeles Recording Workshop. So I moved to LA, went to LARW for a couple weeks. It was like, basic recording course, laughable at this point, but I did that, and then I met a couple people, ended up getting a job at Pacific Studios in North Hollywood, and then after I was going to leave Pacific, I found out Paramount bought the console, so I called them up and said, do you know anyone that knows how to use that new board you bought? And they're like, no, want a job. So I ended up going to Paramount working. No affiliation to the movie studio.
Sure,
music studio.
Yeah.
Spent the majority of my early career doing hip hop, R&B, a lot of cool stuff like that. And then after that, branched out, met some rock and roll guys, kept working on rock.
Yeah.
I met a great producer named Matt Hyde back in LA, took me under his wing for a long time. And that really introduced me to the next level of recording, like, the big producer guys that you read about in the magazines, getting to work with them. And then, you work with them long enough, then you strike out on your own. And at some point, in 2013, I shut my studio down that I had in LA, because I had a studio there for a while, Sunset Lodge Recording. And that's where I did all the Danzig stuff, Parkway Drive, Marty Friedman. A lot of cool records were done there. Ended up moving back to the South, moved to Nashville, and happened to meet Dave Mustaine out of all people. We were both kind of the new kids on the block. He had just moved to Nashville. I moved to Nashville, and a mutual peer of ours introduced us anyway, came over to fix a laptop, ended up where I am now. Basically, that's how it went.
Okay, there's so much to unpack there.
Sure, I know. It's easy for me to remember, but
Yeah, going from studio and working with these people you said you read about, what was your biggest takeaway from that period? Like, once you stepped into working with those, what do you felt like separate those and made them the greats?
Oh yeah, the guys that they know what every single amp is. They know what they know what they want stuff to sound like before they even plug mics in, and realizing that you can do better than just like showing up and throwing stuff into the console and be like, okay, everybody ready to record. There was a lot more to it, and then you realize you kind of get reassured, like the way you're hearing stuff in your head that you want to hear, like other guys are able to do. And you're like, oh yeah, this all starts making sense now.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen someone competent actually do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being around those people really opens your eyes up to like, you can do a lot better than what you've seen in the past.
Sure.
That's how I looked at it.
So, don't name any names, but how many of these people do you feel like any of them were just the hype around the name, or do you feel like they were all that good?
No, I think everybody's good. If you're someone cuts you a check to show up, I think you're pretty competent for the most part.
Sure.
I mean, that sounds very general, but the truth is, like, every real producer I ever worked with was like, oh, you're here for a reason and you're good at this.
Yeah.
And, that artist couldn't do this without you. Maybe they could, but most times not. And especially when it comes to engineering and mixing and all that, you meet those guys and you're like, oh yeah, you are doing stuff in a way that's your unique thing that you're compensated for.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody I've met is, I hate to say it, but like, there wasn't one person I look back on and be like, that person, well, there's one guy, but I'm not going to say his name. Tell me! But for the most part, everybody was on point. Yeah.
It's so cool to talk to Stanley and to you, because you both have that touring. Not touring, I'm sorry.
The studio.
Studio side. Words are hard. That studio beginning with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I asked him a question, I'll ask you the same question, is do you feel like it's easy to go from studio to live or from live to studio?
To me, I didn't feel any pain one way or the other, to be honest. I could tell you about how I ended up in the monitor position if that's where we're headed with this.
We'll get there, absolutely.
Okay,
we can go there now, absolutely.
Yeah, I think maybe that makes sense to point that out first.
Absolutely.
So I was running playback for a while, doing live stuff with Dave, so I kind of experienced like, okay, I know what touring is, whatever. And then we had a monitor engineer that was previously with Megadeth get really sick. He ended up passing away of cancer.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
He had to leave because of a diagnosis. They hired a short-term guy to fill in, and at some point Dave was just like, "You want to do monitors?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "How come you never wanted to do it before?" I was like, "Nobody asked." So, I spent a long time on the road with it. No one ever asked me to do monitors until recently. So I've been with the camp now for about 1.5 years doing monitors. And it's pretty funny. My first experience was going into Australia, showing up at a rental place to build the racks, and they going, "What are you guys doing here?" And I was like, okay, so this is what it's like. Yeah, fast forward 4 shows later, it's Knotfest, like however many thousands of people, and I'm wiggling sliders on an S6L for Megadeth.
What did you do to prep for that?
I just called up Claire, and they let me get on an S6L for a couple days. It's like, okay, this makes sense as a console.
Yeah.
Nothing magical here.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, cool. Dave, you like the way it sounds? And he was like, yeah. And then, so we spent about a week or 2 working, and Dave finally pulls me aside. He's like, I've been doing this for 35 years, and my stage has never sounded so good. My ears have never sounded so good.
What a great compliment.
So that was one of the things I was like, I'm into this. I want to do this. you know?
So you doing this full time now? Are you still dabbling in the studio? Do you kind of hang up your hat with that?
I always work. So if I'm not on tour, I'm probably doing some studio stuff or cutting trees. That's one of my other things.
So for all you studio guys that don't know what you're doing, and just go to monitors. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, basically.
Why not? Actually, I'm sorry. Meet Dave Mustaine in Nashville, and then have him invite you.
Yeah,
sorry.
And there was a big thing. I gotta give it up to Stanley. The onboarding process of me picking up the few bits that I didn't know Stanley was huge. He just was totally casual. I could ask the dumbest question ever, and he would just answer it like a normal person. He didn't like shun me at all for not knowing what I was doing. But I didn't get fired, and I think that's the barometer out here.
I didn't get fired. I love that.
Are you fired or are you still here?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's
pass or fail.
100%. And I've seen it. You know, I've seen guys come and go. So, but anyway, yeah. So that's how I ended up doing monitors.
So talk to me about your mixing style. I say mixing loosely, sorry, but
sure.
Talk to me about your style. Is it the same concept that you go into the studio with, or are you totally shifting your mind to just catering to?
I know where you're getting at. You can't do everything you do mixing here. Maybe at front of house you can apply more of it.
Sure.
But for monitors, speed kills, number one. It's all about that. Fast latency. You don't want to be doing too much smart stuff that puts too much latency in guys' ears, because it's all ears these days. But fundamentals is what you're talking about.
Yes.
The fundamentals of audio don't change whether you're in the studio or out here. And to be honest, even when I picked up the show file originally, I was like, a lot of this just sounds wrong to me fundamentally. So the first thing I did was like clear the show file and put what I perceive as fundamentals to where everything just sounds clear without having to do a bunch of moves or whatever.
So are you giving these guys a general mix of I'm sure it's different for each person, but are you kind of mixing your interpretation of what it would sound like in front of house? Or are you kind of giving them just exactly what they want?
I get where you're driving at. This is going to sound a dickhead way of saying it, but I give them what they need.
Sure.
And then I give them what they want. So I give them like proper fundamental
Interesting.
sounds
Yeah.
that
Okay.
I know makes sense for them. Like, I know this is what you need. Here you go. And then we go from there. So for instance, I give Dave a killer vocal sound, and then he just tells me how loud to make it.
You have such a unique spot because you have the trust built with the band and that dynamic with them in the studio, so you kind of have that experience with some other engineers that they kind of walking into this unknown to where they're just kind of catering and being a servant to whatever is like.
Why would you do that? I mean, if someone's paying you, you might as well give them their value.
Sure.
And I'm like, if you're going to cut me a check, you're going to get all of my talent, not just the simple bits, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why hire me over here and then not have me do my thing?
Yeah.
So I just look at it like that. And it's not being like a dick or anything, or I don't know if I can cuss here, but
you can cuss all you want.
I don't want to come off rude, but I'm like, just let me do what I think is right first, and then if it's wrong, feel free to correct me. I'll do it your way. I don't care at all.
Sure.
Because that's another thing. I have zero ego about any of this stuff. I don't care if somebody doesn't like what I do. There's been times where Dirk's, the drummer Megadeth, Dirk's like, I don't like the kicks. They're all gated and weird. I'm like, great, no problem. Mult him out, send him a whole different set of kicks. I don't care at all.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, he's still going to get a better EQ kick drum than if there was not me here.
So, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself starting off once he asked if you can kind of go back to yourself and say, hey, this?
What do you mean by that? I don't get the
What piece of advice would you give yourself starting off that knowing what you know now?
Starting off at studio.
Monitors.
Oh.
Dave Mustaine's asking you to go and you can go give yourself advice before you go on tour. What advice would you give yourself?
Don't use an S6L, use a D-Live.
Okay.
I fought with the S6L for a long time, just forgetting where buttons were. And once I came over to the D-Live,
sure,
everything seemed to like click immediately.
Okay.
I was where I wanted to be in like 2 hits.
Just familiarity for you?
Muscle memory is monster with, like I said, speed kills, and I'm way faster on this than an S6L. And I feel like at this level, all this digital gear sounds very similar to me. There's really not a certain digital EQ that wows me versus another one.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a thing. And I think I did exactly what I needed to do to not get fired and keep the job and keep being open-minded to learn.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing. And I'm still like that. I was just trying to learn some stuff today and failed miserably.
Yeah. Yeah. What are those 2 mics behind you?
This is my MD mic and my tech, talk to techs only. So this goes to the band and all the techs. So I can talk to them. Hey, Dave, we have a snare mic down.
Yeah.
Go off stage, everybody. They can go off stage. I can talk to my techs. Say, okay, swap the snare. As soon as it's swap, okay, band members, we're back on, and they'd hop out. So these are my 2 guys, and that's muscle memory also. I'm sure there's smart buttons that allow me to put one mic into 2 places. But this is just red is the bad boys, blue is the tech. So. I just look at it like that. Yeah, so usually I'm MD in the show.
Okay.
Which is, it's just really letting the guys know what's happening if anything goes wrong.
Okay, so MD in the terms of like directing the show, or is it kind of just talk back communication?
For the most part, talk back communication.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be saying everything to the band that I say to the techs.
Yeah.
And sometimes something pertinent happens, like a fire alarm goes off, and I need to tell the band, guys, stop the show right now. There's an emergency.
Yeah.
So I have both.
So what are some of the features that you really do enjoy about this?
About the D-Live?
Yes.
Geez, where do I start? DCA spill is like lightning fast. Makes perfect sense to me. You can see I don't have any drums on my top layer. Bam, drums on my top layer. There's the dirt kick over there, the other dirt kicks. You can get wherever I want really fast.
Hold on, I'm gonna take you with me.
Sure.
Let's take this with me.
Come on, guys, to the D-Live.
Hold on, guys, hold on. All right.
So some of the stuff I like about the D-Live, the way I mix my show is most of the band members get static mixes, and then I mix Dave post fader on DCAs. So Dave actually gets a live mix, meaning I'm writing his vocal depending on what section we're at. What's happening. Maybe the click I might ride if there's a count coming up, or maybe I can tell that's a down part and he doesn't need to click so much. I can ride all that. So DCA spill's awesome when somebody wants a change. I can check all my bass channels, all my drum channels across the board. It's super fast for navigating, which is why I only use this 28 channel board. Because with DCA spill, you don't need a bunch of you don't need like the monster desk anymore. Probably the coolest thing, which is why I feel like the D-Live was designed by a monitor engineer, is what's called MCA, and that allows me to, let's say the bass player wants his bass overall down, and I'm mixing him pre-fader. I can choose James, right? So I'm on his mix, hit MCA, that brings my DCAs to the graphic EQ null point, which means I have an entire fader up and down. So let's say James wants his bass up a little bit. I can go to MCA, turn his bass up a little bit, and come back to mixing Dave. Great. Now, if James wants it again, I can go back to James on MCA. The fader resets back to 0. I can pull him back down. So you always have your reference. It's just one of those things that I've never seen any other console have. And I love it. You don't run out of, what do you call it? You don't run out of headroom with a DCA when you're using MCAs. So one of the things, remember when I talked about give the artists what they need and then what they want? This is one of the, that's me. This is one of the most important things I use out here. With the fact that we're all on in-ears and there's a lot of stage volume, Megadeth uses real cabinets, real bass amps, all that stuff. So the stage actually sounds like something. So if you're listening to my in-ear mix, it's probably not gonna make sense sitting over here. And you might be like, oh man, that dude is whack. But when you walk the stage and you've got their mix on an iPad, you can listen to what their environment is out there and reference your mix in their world of noise. And that's everything, because you realize what they're missing and what they need. And I'll go out there doing sound check. I'll stand next to Dave, have a listen, stand next to James, have a listen. And it gives you a lot of intel that they may not be telling you, which then you can make decisions to give them what they need. It's like I said, you don't have to wait for everyone to tell you, Besides, who wants to just be policing a monitor engineer to do their job? Right? So that's probably one of the biggest things on the Allen Heath that I love. Other than that, obviously the Dyne 8 is absolutely 100%.
Use it a lot?
It's the main thing I use on Dave's vocal, and it's serving me well, and it's made my show easier to mix.
Yeah.
Which, that's everything. I have a million other things to think about during the show, so that's doing its job great. What else? Oh, here's something cool. We have a ton of vocal swaps, 3 mics, 3 band members, multiple positions.
Sure.
So the one cool thing I have going on here, this is probably the best thing about the D-Live that I figured out too. So I have all my stage mics in their positions. Depending on what snapshot I fire, they feed 3 aux sends that go into channels. So on my main layer, I just have Timu, Dave, and James. And no matter what position they're in, if I hit my hotkeys over here to fire scenes, their voice is always going to come up on the channel that I need. So that's how I get around 3 guys swapping around 3 different mics at any time. Yeah,
That's smart, man.
and the cool, I'll say one more thing about that. Because we run time code, lights and everything's on that. I have QLab that's syncing to time code that's running all my mic changes. And in addition to that, we run a VIP mix, right? So we have a bunch of VIPs. They get
give me
a pair of headphones and a pack. So I have all my automation that's bumping guys' solos up. Running
that's cool.
Yeah.
I have to steal a VIP pack for you from me for
I'd
sale.
love for you to listen to it, but it allows my VIPs to get a pristine mix, and I'm not having to sit there and write a
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah.
Get back on the money shot. It's me. It's me. Now that's the thumbnail.
Yeah. Awesome. And I don't know what else I could say about this board other than it's super fast and in the modern world speed kills. So.
And you own this board?
Yeah, this is my board. I have a DM64. My head amps are all Rupert Neve RMPD8s, and we use all Shure wireless stuff, which is my stuff too. But yeah, run my whole operation here.
And you own all of it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And it's been serving me well. I only pick the stuff I want to use, and that's what I wanted to use. So, and I can thanks to Robert Bull for pushing me to Allen and Heath.
I would love to hear the story and this of how you got connected with Allen and Heath and got this console.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so I also cut trees in Nashville. I have a tree service, and through me going to Claire all the time and meeting those people, I was introduced to Robert Bull. Robert Bull knew I wanted to purchase a console. He goes, "Oh, you should check out the Allen and Heath stuff. I'll link you up." So I get an email from Robert, linking me up with Kevin Madden. And Kevin Madden replies, he goes, "Is this my tree guy?" What? So it turned out I had been cutting Kevin's trees for a long time, and after that it was like I have to go with Allen and Heath now. But so anyway, yeah, Kevin hooked me up. 2 hours I spent on this board. I was like, I'm sold.
Wow.
This thing is so fast. The knobs are in the same place all the time. I love it. So it was right after that I put in an order, and yeah,
Awesome.
Super happy with it too. Yeah, and it hasn't let me down once. No engine's gone down. A screen hasn't gone down. A fader hasn't gone down.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
So, going from a studio in a very controlled environment, going home every day, to now being on the road, and some could say controlled chaos every single night. Maybe you're someone that thrives in chaos, but my question is, how do you quiet the noise?
Gate it. Sorry. Well,
Right off the cuff. Pow!
no, I think a lot of that relates to my sobriety. I'm 17 years sober, at least, maybe 18. I've lost count, but I think a lot of that has to do with me just being able to work and then not care at all afterwards. We all have good and bad shows, and if I have a bad show, it sucks while I'm in it. The next hour, we're like, okay, it's over, let's do a good one tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I just try and keep in mind that we're just one show at a time, and if we have a bad show, just do better next time, and that helps me deal with any feelings I have out here. But as far as chaos, I don't think it's that chaotic out here. We just plug stuff in and do a show and then unplug it. So,
Well, what advice do you give to people who want to be engineers, would love to be out with Megadeth, other than go to recording studio on the other side?
oh yeah. If you want to, I don't know, you got to meet people and just show them you're valuable, even if it just means you have good handwriting to label stuff. That's it, and be cool. I'd rather hire a cool person that knows nothing than somebody that knows everything and is not cool. Because you're out here 4 weeks, 5 weeks at a time together. If you're not a winner, then it's like nobody wants to be around you.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Just be respectful to everybody, and try not to have an ego, because that stops you from learning. You know, I think that's a big thing. And just make yourself valuable some way. That's the biggest thing for me. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'm going to shoot some rapid fire questions at you.
Yeah, sure.
I am a I'm a musician. Mm-hmm. You're my monitor engineer.
Sure.
So I tell you it sounds muddy.
Sure.
What do you do?
Dump 400 and turn it up a little bit.
Okay. I tell you that it is, it's just missing some punch.
Missing some punch. Up at 800 and turn it up a little bit.
Okay, it's getting this weird little wisp sound in it.
Roll it off at 9K.
But it's every time I walk by this certain spot, there's a...
Oh, give him a new frequency?
Yeah?
Yeah, well, let's say, Dave, I have a main and a backup on 2 completely different RF channels. And he says a word, bam, here's the second pack, let's keep going.
It feels boxed in, like my ears are plugged. Not my ears, but it feels just boxed in.
I would pull out my otoscope and inspect your ears, probably, which I have here. Yeah, I would probably check their earwax.
Sure.
Because that's not normal.
I guess my question is, like, if it feels like less open.
Openness always makes me feel like a high-end thing, maybe.
Okay.
So maybe give them a little top.
Sure.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
I've never heard that comment. That's
okay.
Like, yeah, sure. But also, I cut enough mud out of my mixes that I don't often hear that comment.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about, like, what I've heard about this inclusion effect type thing?
Yeah, I think you're talking about when the vocalist hears their own voice and the in-ears.
Yes.
Okay, so if you've ever plugged your ears and heard your voice, you hear how much low end and mid range is amplified. And if you try and put all those frequencies to make the singer sound like the way you want to hear the singer, it's going to sound bad every time. So I always try and taper down, which is what you'll see where all my Dyne 8 is doing work in the low end. And that's to combat that. Because otherwise it just sounds like wah, 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 wah. Yeah,
that's true.
Absolutely.
Very true. Let's say they're looking like they're about to jump on.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna land the plane here. If people want to follow you and follow your career, where can they follow you?
Instagram, Ye Old Raker. That's me.
Or come to a Megadeth show near you and sit over far left. You might be able to see them, or just get a really long stick and poke them.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.